I am sitting here with our lovely Dean, Shannon Campbell. We are sitting here in our lovely studio in Beasley. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing very well. Thank you for sitting down with us and being able to share your experience, coming here to App and, your plans for the college and everything.
Thank you for having me.
So we had a little bit of an exchange before our emails, and I did a little bit of research about you. And so you come from Denver originally. You were the Associate Vice President of Graduate Studies and a full-time professor at the Metropolitan State University of Denver. And that's a little bit of a drive from Boone, North Carolina. So I'm just kind of curious, how did you kind of find out about us, and how did you kind of make the decision to kind of decide that App was somewhere you wanted to be?
Well, let me just start by saying I'm no stranger to North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Before I went to Denver, I was a department chair and a professor at High Point University. So I was familiar with App because when you are in that triad area, you see App flags everywhere, and I've met a lot of people who were grads, and they always talked about their time at Boone with such nostalgia and pleasure. So, to be honest, I had never visited Boone during the time that I lived in North Carolina. So I am truly new to this region. But a lot of things made this particular job appealing for me, and there were a lot of things that I thought would be a good match for me, and I would be a good match for it. As you said, I was the Associate Vice President of Graduate Studies, and what that meant is I managed a portfolio that had a lot of breadth. So I had graduate programs in hard sciences, social sciences, humanities, and if you look at the College of Fine and Applied Arts, we have a lot of breadth. And so, but there is a commonality. There was a common thread that flowed among all of the programs at MSU Denver, and that was that they were graduate, had a certain level of rigor, and those were the things that I managed. And I see that same thread of commonality here. In the College of Fine and Applied Arts, as you know, we have 7 different departments. They range from military science to art, from sustainable development to communication. And the common thread is that in each of our programs, we deeply believe in experiential learning. So something that you're doing right now, where you put the theory to practice, and you will find that in each of our 7 departments, and we lead in that area. And also we value not only thought leaders, but practice leaders. So our students learn from the very best. They have a well-rounded education from people who do the work and from people who create knowledge about the work. And so what we do is we really create the very best thinkers, doers, achievers. That's what we do in the College of Fine and Applied Arts. So I'm proud to not only lead this college, but to be colleagues with the people in the college.
Yeah. I agree completely. Really, I mean, a lot of our stuff here at WASU and AppTV, we do have like the hands-on ability that students have is just, I haven't seen anything else like it in the college. It really, honestly, it allows you to fail in a certain way, and failure is honestly the best teacher, and just having that experience and having that, I guess, level of stress is so important in the growth process and the learning process.
Absolutely.
But I also wanted to ask, how does Denver compare to Boone? Which are you preferring so far, honestly?
Well, I find it, when you say how does it compare, it doesn't. It is, you're talking about, yes, 2 mountain areas, but completely different. As you know, Denver is a large metropolitan area, and Boone is quaint, and it's different. But, I'm originally from the Ozarks. Mm-hmm. So for me, Boone feels like home, and it's been a very easy adjustment.
Okay.
So I really enjoy Boone.
Okay. Yeah, so the adjustment hasn't been too stressing. I guess so. Okay, that's good to hear. So what really excites you the most about your new position as dean and just the college in general that you found so far?
Okay, if I have to say what excites me the most, it would be the absolute potential here. I think not that we haven't realized our potential, but that we can be so much more, and that I don't think people outside of App recognize what we do here and why we are so special. Like I said, it's not just the thought and practice leadership, but I really believe our college is the place where excellence and innovation converge. We see people with, our colleagues have amazing grants. They're doing things to help the community. They walk the talk when it comes to eroding the line between town and gown. We do so much in this particular college that underpins our community. And so that's what excites me the most, because I really believe in, one, the experiential learning component. 2, that erosion between town and gown, and 3, making higher education accessible. And I believe that's something that we really walk the talk in this particular college.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I had a honors seminar, I believe my sophomore year of attending App State, and we had to go out and we were volunteering with Farm Cafe. I don't know if you've had a chance to go over there. And we went out there and we just helped serve tables. We were helping washing dishes, and the class was on, I believe, food insecurities. And we went out there, and it was just a wonderful experience going out there and just kind of interacting with the community. And I think seeing more of that in the department, or not the department, but the college, is going to really change a lot of people's lives.
I completely agree.
So what are some of the goals that you've kind of set for yourself as the new dean of the College of Fine and Applied Arts?
Well, my personal goal, one, is to have a much closer relationship with the students. I think if a student doesn't know who their dean is until they walk across the stage at commencement and shakes their hand, that's a problem, right? So I want to make sure that I am accessible to students, and also to make sure that I lead with transparency for all of my colleagues. There's nothing that I do that's secret, so I make sure that all of my meeting minutes are public. I make sure that people see the agendas so that they understand the work that I do on behalf of the college and that I can get their input. One of my biggest goals is to have less of a monologue and more of a dialogue with my colleagues across the college, whether they clean the buildings, whether they're an administrator, whether they're a full professor, a non-tenure track instructor, a graduate assistant. These are all my colleagues. And so I know that each person plays a very special part in really making my student first approach come to fruition. And so just really having a close relationship and more dialogues. That's my first goal.
I really appreciate that. That's like very reassuring to hear from an administrator. It's a lot of my concerns with the administration is just like there's not that dialogue. There's not that conversation being had with students and just that personal level of engagement. So hearing that from you, that actually means a lot to me.
Thank you.
Could you kind of just lay out some of your goals that you have for the college in general, less more about yourself and more about like what you plan to, policies, things like that?
Absolutely. One of the things that I want to make sure that we are able to do is to create an area of distinction for every program. A place that people recognize externally, because like I said, I think we are unfortunately North Carolina's best kept secret. And so I want to make sure that our external publics recognize the great work that we do. So I want each program to come up with their own area of distinction, and then let's find ways to support and underpin that area so that we can then receive the sort of publicity and also the recognition at all levels, from the State House to someone's backyard. We deserve that sort of recognition, so I want every program to focus on what their area of distinction is, and then it's my job to make sure we have the support to bolster that area. And so I'm also engaging in a lot of fundraising because to a person, when I arrived and I said, what are the biggest issues that you deal with? Every department chair named 2 things: space and personnel. And that means that I need to go out and do some heavy fundraising to address those needs. And those are critical needs for our college.
Well, I can say that at least in our little corner of the college, AppTV and WASU are definitely some like real linchpin places that students can really get the most bang for their buck at these universities. Just the hands-on stuff, I can't think of anywhere else. I'd rather be honestly.
Well, and let's talk about that erosion between town and gown. When you think about the television station, we're in a news desert. And so my local news should not come from Greensboro or Charlotte. It should come from this region. It should come from the Appalachian region. And we are one of the few student media television stations that are actually carried by cable stations that have a real audience outside of the university. That is unique. You know, I've been a professor at places as large as the University of Southern California, and they don't do that. So what we do is something that not only benefits you, but our entire community. And I think you're just in one of those really special programs where it just happens.
Yeah, I'm a part of Appalachian Weekly News, one of the news stations actually. I'm technical directing for that. And we actually get a pretty sizable amount of Spanish speakers for our community. And I feel like that is a service that is not really carried out by many of our like local TV stations just because of the Boone area. But I feel like if we can fill that niche and that need for the community, I think that would be a really awesome thing for the university. And I'm honestly very proud of that part of AppTV in particular. So do you have any, where do you kind of envision the college in 5 or 10 years from now, if you would, stay in your position?
In 5 years, definitely being recognized as those special areas of distinction, certainly throughout the UNC, the North Carolina system, right? As the place to go for, and you fill in the blank. So certainly in 5 years, I believe we can achieve that goal. That's the one thing I would like to see for the college. And in 10 years, I have a big fundraising goal. And that would be to identify a donor so that we can be in one large building or in sort of a complex of buildings. I think part of the reason that there's a perception that our college is disjointed is because you all are over here. I'm in Duncan. Some people are across the street, our SD neighbors. People are in Catherine Harper. Military science is in the gym. Theaters, if we could find, and even if we had one corridor with all of the arts and the fine arts, but we need a space that is ours, and that would be a 10-year goal.
Yeah, I would really like to see something, kind of like the, the health science building.
Yes.
Having one of those just for our college, I think would honestly bring us together a lot more as a community, just because, we're kind of out here on like the edge of campus.
Yes.
But I think that would be a great thing for the university. And also just having the new facilities would mean a lot because, Way Hall is one of the older buildings on campus.
Yes.
And Beasley is a nice building. It's pretty new. And just having everything kind of centered around that and having those new facilities, I think would really help students a lot, meet their goals.
I agree.
So we are in the times of COVID, sadly still. Burnout, isolation, and a lot of other barriers to learning are still sadly present, and we're still having to contend with a lot of those problems right now. Do you have any different plans or any plans in general to, kind of tackle those problems here on campus and kind of, assure the safety for everybody?
Yes, the safety of the students, faculty, and staff is paramount for me. I'm a caregiver, so I take care of my own elderly parent. So I have a deep concern and commitment to safety. That said, one of the things that I also think is important is we address the isolation. We address the issues of anxiety that come with the global pandemic, the depression that comes when you exist during a global pandemic.
Absolutely.
So some of the things that I'm doing with faculty, for instance, this Friday will be my first Donuts with the Dean. I'm leaving my building. I'm coming to a different building every other Friday and just bringing donuts and meeting with faculty, staff. For students, I'm doing something very similar. I sent an email out to students the first week of class after they completed their first week, and I told them I'd get back to them. They'll be receiving another email. I hope you got that email this week. I'm going to form a student advisory board.
Oh, wow.
And this is not for just the elite students. And as far as the medical issues, we are following CDC guidelines. We are committed to following those guidelines and will continue to do so. And so, I'm not a public health official. I'm not an epidemiologist, but I do feel confident in our leadership that they are advising us properly and that we will follow those guidelines to the letter.
Okay. I really appreciate hearing, about the student advisory board, not just having, those elite members or kind of like that gatekeeper kind of mentality. Having that, I think, would do a lot of good for, the student mental well-being and feeling like we're being heard by the faculty. And
it's important.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm glad that you are, teachers and faculty are kind of considering, the burnout and the isolation and the depression that comes from, just having to deal with everything, being away from family and having to isolate in pods if you are potentially exposed and things like that.
And not to mention, none of us have had this college experience, right? I met a student 2 weeks ago, and she said, I'm a junior, I'm a third-year student. I've really only been here one full semester.
Yeah, it's weird to think that a lot of the people who are juniors now have never really had that college experience.
That's what she said.
And it's honestly very sad to think about that. A lot of these people just have not had that experience. But let's see what else. So you've heard a lot of my stories about, and me praising, 90.5 WASU and AppTV. How important do you feel that organizations like that are to the success of the student, during college and afterwards in their, professional career?
Critical, absolutely critical. I was a communication student. I was a public relations major, and I worked in the public relations office at the university, and we had an agency on campus. And those were the places where I really cut my teeth in the profession because, as you know, in a communication discipline, you have to show and prove. It's not just about the theory. It's not just you being able to tell me who was a leader in this particular era. It's about showing that you can do the work, and what you learn here are durable skills. So as far as the technical things, I can tell you all of the things I learned in college technically within 5 years were absolutely obsolete. But this is what college taught me. How to persevere, because as you know, during finals week, it's insane. It's not normal in life to have a full week where just everything hits all at once, but you make it through. I learned how to work in teams. Oh my gosh, did I hate those group projects, right? But when I got out, I was like, so that's why I had to do that. I learned how to speak up for myself and be assertive. So I learned a lot of durable skills, and I call them that because those are the things. It might be the technical skills that get you your first job, but what's going to get you promoted and continually promoted are the durable skills. And I really shy away from calling them soft skills because they are the hardest skills to learn, right? And there are so many people who could be so much more successful if they had those skills. But you have to learn how to get along with others. You have to learn how to communicate well. You have to be assertive and be your own advocate. So those are the things that I also learned because of experiential learning in places like this.
Yeah, I mean, if you can know the ins and outs of an audio board, of a TriCaster, which is a video switcher, you can know all of that, but if you can't handle the stress of like of working in a TV station and working in those group projects, it's kind of a moot point.
And deadlines.
Right? Absolutely deadlines. Yes, we have learned much about deadlines this first 3 weeks of school. But yeah. So I had this quote from interim provost and executive vice chancellor Heather Norris, who said, you believe deeply in the power of access to education for all. Could you tell me a little bit about what that means?
Well, yes, accessibility is paramount to who I am as an educator and certainly as an administrator. You know, I'm a first-generation college student, okay? So when I came to college, I had no idea not only about what to expect, but just the entire game, because it's completely different than high school. I didn't know I could go to my professor's office. I didn't know that I should be establishing relationships with them sort of that extended beyond the classroom. There were so many things that I just didn't know that my peers sort of started at a different place than I did as a result of them having that knowledge, talking about these things in the home. I didn't even know public relations existed. I'd never seen public relations on television. There wasn't a PR practitioner in my home. I would have never known. So I never knew things about cultural anthropology, and so it took a while to find my way. I believe that I am the embodiment of the American dream because of that. You know, I will tell you, my mother grew up picking cotton in Arizona. My father cultivated rice in Arkansas. My grandparents were domestic workers. My great-grandparents were enslaved. That's how far my family has come in this amount of time. And just thinking about my parents. And all of that has been a result of education and accessible education. And I went to an undergraduate institution very much like App State. Regional, comprehensive, great education, professors who care, who provided extraordinary experiences in an inspiring environment for me. So I know what education can do. It can change the whole trajectory of an entire family. It can change and shift communities. So that's why I'm just so incredibly committed to making higher education accessible.
That's a wonderful answer. I have to say that was very well put.
Thank you.
How do you plan to best advocate for the well-being of students and assure they get the highest quality education?
That's a good question, and thank you for asking that. You know, I have made it clear from the minute I stepped foot on campus that I take a student-first approach. And that is what I expect for everyone that I work with. And like I said, whether you are cleaning the restrooms or whether you are a full professor in front of students, we take a student-first approach in the College of Fine and Applied Arts. I know I certainly do as dean. And I plan to lead by example. And so for me, when a student comes to me with a concern, that concern gets addressed, things get dropped, I triage. But for the students, none of us would be here. So you are the reason that we're here. You are the reason that we have the passion that we do. We see the ingenuity, we see the hope. And it is inspiring for us to be around young people like you. You are the lifeblood of professions that we care deeply about. And so I, from day one, have said it, and I will continue to say it. We take a student-first approach in this college. That will be what leads us going forward.
And also, people kind of forget about the faculty, I feel like, a lot of the times in these conversations. I just kind of want to also know how you're going to advocate for them because, you know, they are people too. They have lives, they have families, and they have, you know, concerns as well. And I just want to kind of get your input on how you're going to advocate for them.
Yes. Well, first of all, it's my honor to advocate for the faculty. As I said, I view them as my colleagues. And we had a welcome session just last week, and I told them that we need to flip the narrative. They don't work for me, I work for them. I serve at the pleasure of the faculty, and my job is to make sure that they have the resources that they need so that we can have that student-first approach. I want them to feel prepared, whether that means professional development. I want them to feel supported. I told them, and as I've told the provost, anytime that I speak, I am absolutely 100% biased. Everything that I do is by, for, and about the College of Fine and Applied Arts. And if other deans are not that way, that's fine. I believe, also in supporting the entire university, but I have to do that by supporting my college first. And that means making sure my faculty have the things that they need to thrive. And so the faculty are incredibly important. You are the lifeblood, but they are the heartbeat of the college.
I completely agree with that. I think we kind of hit 30 minutes about. Do you have anything else you would like to add? Anything else you feel like I may have missed, or anything you want to bring up?
Well, let's see. I have a couple of fun facts that you might want to share.
Oh yes, you are. We did have a lengthy conversation about. Well, not lengthy. It was a good conversation.
Yes.
But you are a tremendous fan of hip hop.
Yes.
You are a fan of LL Cool J, Digital Underground. Maybe not as big a fan of Coolio.
No, absolutely not.
But I just wanted to really, quickly ask you, because we want to know who you are and your likes and dislikes. Who do you think is your favorite artist in hip hop, or just in any genre of music? And do you have maybe a favorite album or song by them?
I do. Okay, my favorite artist is Tupac. Favorite album,
Understandably.
Favorite album, All Eyes on Me. It was the album of my era. But I have to say this. I have to support the ladies in hip hop. So whether we're talking about Mulatto, Saweetie, Meg, Cardi B,
Yeah.
and I appreciate what they bring to the genre, because women have been involved in hip hop since the beginning and have been underrated. So there would be none of this group without sort of a Nicki Minaj who came before them, and there would be no Nicki without a Little Kim and a Foxy Brown, and there would be no Little Kim and Foxy Brown without, oh my goodness, and Trina. You got to think about that whole Miami Trina Trick Daddy move. And then before them, there would have been Salt and Pepper, a TLC, right? A Queen Latifah.
Yeah.
So women have been around since the beginning, and they've always espoused this powerful feminist, reclaiming the narrative, averting the male gaze. And so I'm just really, really into what's going on in that sort of feminist, womanist space, and hip hop as well.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see how much female rappers have kind of honestly exploded in popularity in recent years. Doja Cat,
Yes.
Nicki Minaj, who's been having to come up for I don't know how long.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
Probably a decade.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it, but
Yeah, I don't think she's going to stop anytime soon. She keeps on making new music, and it's just getting even bigger. So it's just really awesome to see that.
And with Nicki, you get two rappers in one. She goes hard, and she's like, and I'm Nicki, and you're like, who? What?
Yeah, it's very weird to see that she has these two almost different personalities.
Yes.
It's very bizarre, but I am just so happy to see that. And my personal favorite, I'm always a huge Kendrick stan. I can't stop talking about how amazing he is and what he's done for hip hop and honestly African American culture in general, just because he really brought to me at least just the forefront of just a lot of the problems that people go through, because I'm Caucasian, so I haven't experienced any of that, but seeing that and Good Kid, Mad City, and listening to that and just
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Kendrick, it's a socio-political, urban journalist. If you want to know what's really happening, he encapsulated that.
Yeah.
And see, that's how Tupac was for me. And at the beginning, when he talked about Brenda has a baby, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
When he talks about his love for women, the care he has for his mother, what is happening in the neighborhood, he was an urban journalist, and in a space and a time when that urban community was ignored by mainstream journalism. So, you know, they really bring the margins to the center. And so I think that those sort of voices, the Kendrick Lamars for you, the Tupac for me, are so critical. And it was life-changing.
Yeah, and it also, Kendrick also did something very interesting where he's able to bring up like these thoughts of, you know, depression and like mental anguish.
Yes.
And honestly, I haven't seen a lot of that, and it's hard to bring that up in the music industry, especially in, you know, hip hop and rap.
Yes.
Because you do have to kind of, I feel like, put on like a front and like this
The bravado.
the machismo.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was very, very brave of him, honestly. But yeah. Well, I'm out of questions. Thank you so much for spending time with us, and you know, just giving us, you know, your plans for and letting us know more about you. Honestly, it's great to see that you're willing to, you know, reach out to students and, you know, kind of bridge that gap between, you know, faculty and students.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.